friends, it has been a long time no chat. Welcome back to my Practically Imperfect life. We have been gone for a couple of weeks, off and on, doing some traveling for tournaments and things like that. And honestly, I just wanted to focus in on enjoying those moments with the family because my word of the year this year is balance. And so one of my big goals was when I'm at family events, I am unplugged from things related to any of my jobs. So I have been really trying to make sure that I'm not doing things like checking comments and working on video editing and, even just brainstorming ideas. I'm not doing any grading when we're gone and doing family events. I'm not doing any planning, working on big projects. I'm literally trying to disconnect and be fully present in those family moments, which has always been one of those things I've struggled with because the back of my mind is always going, you've got all these things to do. So if you've not seen me for a while, it is simply because I have been really trying to focus in on those family moments. But we just celebrated a big milestone. My daughter turned 18. I know, I cannot believe it. I'm like, no, you're not old enough to have an 18-year-old. And then I wake up and my hip hurts and I'm like, okay, well maybe we are old enough for our daughter to be 18. But that brings about a lot of reflection. And I don't care if you're a homeschooling parent or if your kid is in public school or private school. But when your child hits that big milestone where they're officially an adult, but in your mind, they're still your little child, it brings about just a lot of reflection on how things have gone so far, what things you've taught them. Oh my gosh, what things have I not taught them? Have I done enough? Have I totally messed my kid up with all of my crazy ways? And I really started to do some reflection on what I thought were some of the most important things that we taught during our homeschool years, because we've been homeschooling for, quite a while. And there's a lot of stuff we've covered and a lot of things that we've worked in. There's a lot of subjects that we've done. And when it boils down to it, and when I ask myself, have we done enough? Have we prepared enough? I started to make this list of the things I thought were the most important things that we had taught or that we had focused on in our homeschool. And you'd be kind of surprised at, I think, some of these. So I'm going to go through my list of what I put down as kind of my top 10 things that we taught in our homeschool. And some of these I have related videos to where I've talked about how I've done those things. And if I have a video, I will link it down below for you so that way you can check that out. But if there is something where you would like me to try to expand upon that a little bit more or give you more details on exactly what we did, let me know down in the comments because I don't want to drone on and on and on for you here today, because I will. Y'all know I'm a talker. But I'll give you just kind of a brief overview of what these things are. And then if you want me to really deep dive into something or provide specific resources and all that jazz, just put a comment down below and I will add that to the list of things for us to try to get out to you in the coming months. So I have my notes down here. I have my coffee, because you can never have too much of that. And let's just dive right on in. So the first thing I want to talk about, the first big thing I'm glad that we cultivated in our homeschool was a love of reading and of great books. My kids have just always loved to have books read to them when they were little. It was nonstop. Mom, will you read this book? Mom, will you read this book? Mom, will you read this book? And I never said no. I always was like, sure, I'll read that book to you. Sure, we can do another book. Yeah, you want us to start this 400-page novel for our bedtime reading? Sure. And I think it started out by building that young. When they were really little, bedtime routine was always mom comes in and reads. And we would read for 20 minutes a night. We just read, and some nights it was longer than that. We would lose track of the time. And that turned in to my daughter just carrying books with her everywhere, and she very quickly progressed into some pretty big books. I mean, she just was a voracious reader, and she still is a voracious reader. She loves books. She gets really into book series. She'll talk about being invested in a book series, even if she's kind of outgrown it. If a new book comes out in that series, well, I've got to read it because I'm invested in the series now. And then that also turned into a love of great nonfiction books as well, where like, the majority of our bookcase behind us are nonfiction books or biographies or books on history and science that we have used in our homeschool. And she has learned how to really like pull out and find that great information within those books, and how you don't have to Google everything. You can pull a great book off the shelf and you can get a wonderful wealth of information from that. So just building that love of reading, that is going to be so important for her all through life. It's already proven to be really helpful in her college career. So that's definitely the first thing. The second thing is actually not a subject related to school, but is something that we learned through the things we were doing in school and teaching every day in our homeschool. And that is the value of hard work and failure, because there is value in both. First of all, nothing comes for free. Like we have just kind of reiterated that if you want something, if you want to achieve something, you have to work hard for it. You have to be willing to dedicate the time. You have to be willing to study hard. You have to be willing to train for it. You have to be willing to, discipline yourself in order to make that happen. And she's had to see that, right? She's seen us demonstrate that because she watched me, for example, go through nursing school. And so she knows that, like, for me to achieve that goal, like, that was hard, especially as like a mom with young kids and working full time and everything. It was really difficult to do. But she saw that, we were able to achieve that goal. And she has demonstrated that through getting such good grades, working so hard at her college classes, earning her golf scholarship, winning tournaments. Like this is the result of learning about hard work. But the flip side of that is understanding that we are all going to fail at times. We are not perfect. There are going to be times where, you've tried your hardest and you still didn't get that thing you wanted, or you didn't meet that goal you wanted. But if you have put the hard work and the effort in, then you can use that failure as a lesson, right? You can see that what it is that you need to change or what it is you need to do differently. You can learn the value of being a good sport, in cheering on someone else who maybe is going ahead of you. And so really trying to get them to understand that failure is not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's meant to teach us something, and we should embrace those life lessons that we get from that. I know I keep having to reference my list. I'm almost ready for those reading glasses. All right, next up, generosity. The value of being generous, and that you can never be too generous. And I don't just mean like throw money at things, right? Like if you have the ability to give financially, then absolutely, right? We've taught, we teach about the importance of tithing to your church and about giving to charities and everything. And, even small things like, when we're walking in during Christmas season and the kettlebell ringers are there and they're raising money for the Salvation Army, we always put coins in, like even just simple things like that. But being generous with your time and your talents as well. Because again, for a long time, we weren't like impoverished, but we weren't exactly like rolling in the dough or anything like that. Like, we had to work hard or work extra for any of the little perks that we had in life. And even today, right, for things that we want to do, somebody's got to work extra for it. But we always looked at ways we could give of our time, like through our church and through the ministry and through different things that we were involved with and our talents. So I always thought, well, I'm pretty good at organizing. I work well with kids. I'm kind of loud. I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself. And so I put a lot of my effort and my time into things like the children's ministry. And so the kids actually grew up helping with that in our church. They've grown up being volunteers at Vacation Bible School when they aged out of it. They've helped create sets and designs and lead small groups. They have helped teach Sunday school lessons. We have done work at soup kitchens. We have gone and created different things for different organizations. My daughter, when she was in middle school, she actually earned her Girl Scout Silver Award by building a Gaga ball pit. Like she built one for the playground at the school attached to our church because she thought that the older kids needed something that they could do beyond just a playground. And so she built a Gaga ball pit so that way they would have somewhere to go and to play. And if you don't know what Gaga ball is, you should Google it. It's like the most fun game ever. Something we play at camp all the time. But teaching about that generosity, like you can be generous in more than one way. Don't just think of it as something that you have to do financially, but that there's also a lot of reward in that, right? Like it's not just about getting accolades or getting recognized for being generous, but it does build up your heart. It really does when you can be generous. And I did do a video about how we try to raise generous kids, and so I'll link that one down below for you. All right, next on my list is life skills. And boy, as a homeschooling parent, this has been the easiest one to teach simply because, well, you know, my kids are here with me every day and they're able to kind of learn right alongside as I'm doing things. So they learned how to do laundry at an early age, which was a great thing. Like I stopped doing their laundry when they were in like, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade because they knew how to do it and they took care of it. And that has been absolutely wonderful. Cooking and cleaning because they're helping out around the house. Both of my kids love to cook, which is awesome. And they're always trying out new experiments and wanting to explore different things. In fact, lately, the two of them, they're both kind of like training at the gym together. And so they have come up with a whole meal prep plan that the two of them want to follow in order to kind of like meet the nutritional goals that they have. And so they've been making grocery lists for me of like what it is that they need, and then I just approve the amount that they're going to spend and they go take care of it. And they've been doing their meal prepping, and it's been really cool because it's, you know, a great life skill for them. But life skills are so fantastic to teach, and it's something that unfortunately a lot of kids coming out of the public school system have not been taught. And it's even more stuff than just like taking care of your house, all right? Like or a vehicle. Like my kids learned from their stepdad how to change the oil in their car and how to check the car tire pressure and you know, how to troubleshoot different things. But even things like, how do you fill out an employment application? How do you write a resume? How do you understand your W-2 or your pay stub? What are all of these things related to credit cards that we need to know? Like all of that stuff. There's a lot to that. And so we have taught life skills, a lot of it being hands-on every day. But we've done a couple of specific things as well. And in fact, one of the things that's been kind of fun is this past semester. So in our Q1 and Q2, my kids wrapped up doing the practical life skills course that I wrote for them. And that was based actually off my daughter saying, hey, I think there's still a bunch of things that I need to make sure that I know how to do before I move out next year and head to college. And so that prompted me to write the course and try to include all of these different things that I felt like needed to be introduced. And so we put that course together and the kids completed that in Q1 and Q2. And we had a lot of fun doing it. I think it was really good for them. If you want to know more about that course, I'll link that down below. And then my shop is always linked in the description box, and that resource is available there for you to purchase if you are interested. But it's it's designed to be a 1 semester life skills course, perfect for high schoolers before you send them out into the world. Okay, next thing is following your curiosity down every rabbit hole you can. And that you might say, well, that sounds like getting off topic in your classes. No. Guys, homeschooling, we're not under time constraints. If we're interested in a subject or a subtopic, we are going to look into it and we are going to deep dive into it and we're going to find extra resource about it, because why not? If that's where your curiosity is taking you, then let's go there. And so cultivating that sense of curiosity and that feeling comfortable, like, hey, you know what? I really want to know more about this, and feeling supported and saying, okay, that's what we'll look into more. And that has turned into specific subjects that we have done or specific ways we have addressed those subjects. For example, we did botany a couple of years ago. We did the Guest Hollow botany course, which hands down, like, I think that was my daughter's favorite course that she's done in high school. Like, she loved that course. She's all about plants, and it was right up her alley because, you know, she was learning about flowers and trees and different types of crops and how plants grow and the history behind them and all of that. And she got really into finding out like the history of some of these plants and then some of their uses. So some of like the medicinal, I can't talk. Some of the uses for them in medicine, like creating your own herbal medicines and things like that. So since she had an interest, we kind of deep dove into that subtopic and found some additional resources on it, and just learned a lot. And in fact, like some of the things that we grow in our garden are things that are meant to be used for that, because she really prefers, if like your stomach's upset, what's the best type of tea we can make to take care of that? And oh, by the way, we grew the plants that made that tea, kind of stuff. So it's been really fun to do those sort of things. But even like choosing subjects in school, because we obviously do like the big four, I always say, like we do math and literature and history and science. But then what do we do for those electives? Well, let's see where your curiosity is taking you. And that is how we managed to get into Biblical Hebrew this year, of all subjects. For a senior year course, we're working on learning a whole new ancient language, so why not? But I think that's fun, because you want to be a lifelong learner. I mean, there's some great joy that can be found in being a lifelong learner. And you hear these stories of people who live to 100 and they're like, oh yeah, I never stopped learning and never stopped being curious. Like their mind is sharp as a tack because they are forever challenging their mind and learning new things. So I love that we really cultivated that in our homeschool. All right, time management and self-accountability. That's the next one here. Oh, those are big skills. And those are skills that I'll tell you what, every employer is looking for. Every employer wants you to be able to manage your time well and to be able to hold yourself accountable to get your work done. Nobody wants to be that boss that is having to like lean over your shoulder and going, did you get it done? Did you get it done? Did you get it done? Why isn't it done? Why didn't you prioritize? Why are you wasting time? Like no employer wants to do that. And I've been an employer, right? I've been like the supervisor and administrator in some of my job roles, and like I know what that's like, and it's like incredibly frustrating. But I also know that it doesn't matter what field you do in. If it doesn't matter if you're teaching or if you're a nurse or if you're in business, whatever field you're in, you need to have those skills. And so we have worked on developing those in different ways. Now, when my kids were younger, they were given some time frames in which to complete different subjects and like orders that I prefer them to do. But especially later middle school and all through high school, I started to put it onto them. Okay, you decide what order of classes you want to do, like during your day, and in what order do you think you will work the most efficiently. And it was interesting because each of my kids made a different decision. Like my daughter wanted to tackle her hardest subjects first. She wanted to get those out of the way, and then she would kind of be able to breeze through her easier courses. Whereas my son wanted to get as much of the easy stuff done because he felt accomplished by being able to say, I got, all of this stuff done. And then he could focus in on his harder subjects. So it's interesting because they each found a method that worked for them to get the things done they needed to, but in a way that worked best for their brain and their motivation. But they were accountable for getting it done. Like, I'm not going to sit here all day and like look over their shoulder and make sure you're getting each thing done. Now, do I check things at night? Yes. And if stuff's not done, are there consequences? Yes. And we have gone through seasons where like we've had to do that, where it's like, okay, well, you're losing this privilege or you're losing that privilege because you are, choosing not to get the things done that we've asked you to do. But by having a consequence for, that inaction, they've learned the need to hold themselves accountable and to make sure that they're getting things done and that they're being honest about what they've gotten done. Now that has translated into helping her with her college courses this year, because she's doing accelerated college courses. So basically it takes a whole semester of a course and it crams it down into like 8 weeks, which it's a lot. There is a lot to get done. And, on top of that, she works part-time. She's in basketball, which is almost done now, but she's doing basketball. She's training up for golf. She's trying to spend time with friends and family, but then she's got this workload for homeschool and the workload for her college classes to balance. And so my daughter has really had to look at, how do I plan my days? And on days when I don't have like a lot going on with my other commitments, what can I work ahead in? And we have really kind of adjusted how she even approaches like her homeschool week. So I make sure she knows everything at the start of the week that she's going to have for the whole week. And then I leave it up to her to determine how it is she wants to split it up through the week. So a lot of times she might choose to spend a long part of a Sunday afternoon getting ahead on her college work And then if she has like a light Monday or a light Tuesday, like maybe she doesn't work that day, she will do more than one day's worth of work in that day because she wants to try to lighten her load on other days. So that is just really good time management right there, because she's trying to make sure that she's not overwhelming herself on any one day, and she's still getting done everything she needs to by the deadlines. So she's never had anything turned in late, which is amazing. Not even for me. Like, she's never turned in anything late for me. She's never turned anything late in her college classes. She's always had stuff done early. In fact, she's super frustrated with the other kids in her college class because they do discussion boards, which are the worst. And she has to post an initial discussion and then reply. And so she always posts really early. And then she's like, well, then I have to wait all the way to like the last day to reply because everybody is waiting until the very last minute to even post their initial discussion. So she's very frustrated with that. So, but it just goes to show that, you know, she was taught that time management, and maybe they weren't. So time management and accountability, great skills to teach, especially your high school teens, right? In your homeschool, teach them that, give them a little more of the reins on planning their day and planning how they are to split their workload so they can learn that balance. All right, next on my list are good writing skills, solid writing skills. And why not speaking skills? I mean, it is important to be able to speak to people and to hold conversations and, you know, be confident when you're talking to someone else. But I feel like effective communication really starts with being a solid writer. Now, we have been longtime users of curriculum from the Institute for Excellence in Writing, IEW, and we started off using that. We did structure and style courses for our kids back in early middle school, and then we transitioned to using their theme-based writing. So if you want to see kind of more about that, I'll try to pull, I know I've got a couple of videos where I talk about the writing programs we've used and how we set it up and how I teach it. So I'll try to link some of those for you in the description box. And that has also helped us to create resources that build upon that to help them, like my how to write a research paper. So I took things that we learned from IEW, and then I created like some outlines that I thought worked well. And I have my kids use that anytime they have to write a research paper. And those techniques are still being used by my daughter when she's writing her papers today, which is really exciting to see, that really did help with her courses, because she's had to write papers. She took a writing course in like a college writing course this year, and now she's in a psychology course where she still has to do a bunch of writing, and then she's getting ready to take a literature course. So writing, and more writing. So lots of that. But she just really is a remarkable communicator through her writing, and that took time to develop. So don't feel like that's something that's going to happen overnight. Like, you have to build those skills. You have to build those habits. You have to make sure that you're reiterating those things. But she is so solid in getting her point across in her writing. And we've also worked, we started early talking about things like, how do we properly cite sources? How do we write in an MLA format? How do we write in an APA format? Using resources like the Purdue OWL and other things like that to help teach those skills. So if nothing else, if you can build them into a solid writer, that will be incredibly helpful for them. It has made, especially in her college courses, it has made her life so much easier, having that writing skill feel like it's coming naturally now, because we've spent so many years building up those good habits when it comes to writing. So solid writing skills. All right, strong health background is what I wrote down here. But what I really mean is a strong understanding of your body and how it works. And maybe it's because I'm a nurse, that I feel like understanding your body and your health is important, but it really is. It is amazing in the field I work in how many people come into the hospital and they have no idea how a lot of the basic functions of their body work. They are on medications and they have no idea. Beyond like the name of the medication, they really have no idea what it's for. They might say, okay, well, it's for my blood pressure. Well, there are a lot of different blood pressure meds out there, and they each work differently, and they adjust your blood pressure in different ways. So like, which one is this medication tackling? Do you know that? And a lot of people just don't understand, right? Or if we talk about things like lab values related to their kidneys, they look at you with a blank stare because they have no idea what that means. And understanding your body, understanding how it works, understanding the things that it needs to be healthy, knowing how to make good choices, right? Those are crucial, especially with our young adults, right? With our preteens and our teens, because a lot of the decisions that they make in their teenage years and in their 20s are the ones that are going to have such a great impact on their health when they hit their 30s and 40s and beyond, right? Like women, for example, we build up bone density and then we get to about 30 and we can maintain it, but we have a tendency to lose it after that, right? So we need to make smart choices in our younger years to start to build that bone density. We got to make sure that we're getting the proper amounts of calcium and vitamin D, and that we're doing weight-bearing exercise and things like that to help build that bone strength, so we are at a lower risk for osteoporosis when we hit 40. So teaching people how these things work, right, how your body works, is important. Now, we have done it in several different ways. In middle school, we took a junior anatomy class, or my son did a junior anatomy class from Apologia. Both of my kids did the Apologia health course in 8th grade. And then we obviously hit upon things in biology. And then this year, my daughter is doing an anatomy and health course from Guest Hollow, where she's like deep diving into a lot of those topics. So for purely practical reasons, right, I think it's really important for us to study those things. I did like a whole video, all right, on why every kid should take a health and anatomy course, because I think just understanding your body, because it's the only one you have, is super important. And I'll get off my soapbox on that now. But really, really glad that we did that. All right, financial literacy is up next. Also, super important topic as you're getting ready to enter adulthood, right? Understanding like money and savings and credit cards and loans and interest rates and stocks and bonds and all of that stuff, right? And how is it that we don't go into adulthood and then like instantly find ourselves tens of thousands of dollars in debt and then spend the next couple of decades trying to climb out of that hole and never feeling like we get ahead? I wanted to make sure that my kids avoided any of that stress, because, I made mistakes when I was in my early 20s, like stupid mistakes, and it took a really long time to recover from those. And so while, we have been able to make fantastic progress towards our goals, it's going to take us a lot longer to get there than if I had made smart decisions when I was in my 20s. So I want to try to help my kids avoid that. So financial literacy for us was starting off with the very basics. We did a financial literacy course for homeschoolers from Dave Ramsey when they were in 8th grade. That exact course I don't think is still available, but Dave Ramsey still offers a homeschool financial literacy course. It's just a little bit different than the one we did on their website. It's online. It was one semester. It was really great introduction. And I would do that with your like middle schoolers. Like, I think that's a good course for them just to get those basics. So we did that. We opened savings accounts. And then when the kids hit high school and they had jobs, we opened checking accounts. So now they're learning how to manage their savings account and their checking account. My daughter did, last year she did Guest Hollow's Government Econ Personal Finance course. So 2 portions of that course, right, focused on economics. So understanding like how the broader economics work, but also understanding things like stocks and bonds and how all of that is important, and how that relates to things like your retirement savings accounts. And then the personal finance. So she read books like The Money Book for Teens. She read the entire book of Dave Ramsey's Baby Steps. And in fact, she gave that book to her boyfriend because she's like, look, we need to be on the same page when it comes to money. And I thought that was awesome, because she wanted to make sure that like he understood all of the same things that she was looking at. So I thought that was great that she was actually sharing that book around. But she read multiple books on different ways to approach money and savings. And she is a saver. Like, I've never seen a teenager who likes to save money more than she likes, like that they like to spend money. Like, as most teens, like, they get a paycheck and it's like gone. Whoosh, they are buying all kinds of things. But she gets more pleasure out of seeing her savings account grow than she does out of going and buying things. Like, will she buy herself stuff from time to time? Yeah, but she doesn't go out and do anything crazy. And when she has a goal, she saves for that separately. She has a high yield savings account already with like thousands of dollars in it. I mean, it's crazy. She's got more money in savings than I think many adults in America do, which is kind of tragic, isn't it? But awesome. It's so awesome that she's picked up those things. So financial literacy will help your kids get off on the right foot as they are leaving your home. So whether you do a course like the Dave Ramsey courses, and there are several different courses from him, if you are looking for something to do more as like a full year course, highly recommend the Government Econ Personal Finance course from Guest Hollow. I think it's a beautiful way to hit on all three of those subjects, plus a little bit of logical thinking. And it also kind of shows you how those things can kind of blend together and why those subjects should all be incorporated together, because there really is a lot of overlap between those three subjects. So I think that was a phenomenal course. If you do my Practical Life Skills course, there are sections in there on understanding like insurance, like not homeowners insurance, but health insurance, disability insurance, home loans, car loans, credit cards. Like there's information on that in there as well. So there are a lot of different ways that you can approach teaching financial literacy in your homeschool. And then last, but certainly the most important of all of these things, is teaching her that her faith journey is something that never stops. You always should be looking for new ways to pursue the Lord, and you should always be looking for new understanding and how to better understand His Word. There's so much that you can deep dive into in the Bible and understand more fully, and that journey never stops. It's not going to stop all the way until your death. Like, you should always be trying to know and understand more and being more well versed in it so you can better share His Word with others. And we have just been really devoted to doing family studies and devotionals pretty consistently throughout all of our homeschool years. So we have done different topical studies together. We have done apologetics courses together, which we did that for a full 2 years, and that was probably my favorite 2 years, was really going into apologetics. I think that's an awesome subject to study. We have looked at Old Testament history. We have looked at the development of the church and all of the things that they went through. They are doing individualized topical studies this year, so each of my kids has a series of devotional books that they are working through, and I try to pick ones that I think are topics that are relevant to the stage of life that they are at. So if we're getting to a period of time where we're feeling a little more anxious, right, about things, so we're going to do a study on what the Bible teaches us about anxiety and how we can manage it. If we are when we were dealing with like all of those like early teen emotions, where like your hormones make you go from like really happy to like really sad, to absolutely furious, right? So we did a study that was on emotions and emotional responses, and it was a fantastic thing. But teaching that constant pursuit of the Lord is important, and it's not just from like an academic standpoint, like, hey, I need you to do this devotional, but I've seen how that has translated into how they live their lives and how they choose to spend their time. So the kids have study Bibles that they, on their own time, are marking up and using for study. Emma and her boyfriend, they go to a couple of different youth groups together where they're doing studies, or they even have gone to some adult study groups that like his church has hosted, where they go and they're sitting with adults and doing these higher level Bible studies. And I think that is fantastic. I think that kind of challenge is great for you. So I really like seeing that that they're pursuing that together, that study of the Word together. So I think that is something that is important. I know not every homeschool is, not everybody's homeschooling because you want to have the faith focus, and that's fine if that's why you what you're doing in your homeschool. But for our homeschool, that was a big piece of it, right? Like understanding how God is intertwined into every one of the subjects that we are learning about, and how we can see the beauty of creation in the things we're studying in science, how we can see how man has screwed up royally, right, over and over again through history, and the times that God has come through and really had a hand in bringing history forward and making certain things come about. the blessings that people have been given in different times in history where it seemed like things were going to fail, but somehow they didn't. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful to be able to apply that now to all of these different subjects, or even approaching subjects from that faith-based standpoint. You know, we've looked at, like, we did psychology. Both of my kids did psychology from a Christian perspective, which is very different from how they are approaching psychology in her college course right now. So it's great that she's been able to look at both of those look at that subject from two different perspectives, and really kind of see that starking difference between how somebody coming from a faith-based background will approach it versus someone from a secular background. So it's just been, you know, really interesting. But definitely teaching her that lifelong pursuit of God and the lifelong desire to just continue to grow your faith. I think that was super important for us to instill in our homeschool, but then also in our day-to-day life. And so I almost met my goal. I was really trying to keep this video under 30 minutes, and I think I'm just a shade over. So those are the things that, when I reflected back, that I thought were the most important ones that we taught in our homeschool, and like really in our home every day. Now, if you would like to deep dive into one of those more, if you want some more specifics, if you want to see specific curriculum or devotions or you know, ideas on resources, anything like that, drop a comment. Let me know what it is you'd like to find out more. And if there's something that you feel was the most important thing you've taught in your homeschool that wasn't something that I mentioned, let me know down below. You know, share those things, because I think a lot of us, you know, especially when our kids enter high school and we're homeschooling, we get really nervous that we're going to forget something that's critically important, or that we're going to screw up and they're going to graduate and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, I did not teach them that. That's not good. But take a deep breath, right? Because you notice that there were some subjects that I was like, yeah, these were important, but a lot of it are things that we're teaching day to day as we're interacting with our kids and as we are homeschooling our kids. And those are a lot of those big life lessons that are going to really help them out in the future. So you got this, homeschool mamas, you can do it. But if you have new things to share or extra things to share, drop a comment down below. Now, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can follow along with our homeschooling through high school journey. Next up, we will be talking about how Q2 went and our plans for the third quarter in our homeschool year. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, happy homeschooling.